Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving into a conversation that cuts right to the core of leadership. Empathy isn't easy, but accountability isn't optional. My guest, Jill Harris, believes that being a great sales manager doesn't mean having all the answers. It means asking the right questions and really listening. Jill's built a sales coaching framework that's all about co creating a plan with reps, not just letting them coast or throwing them into a performance plan. It's tough, but it's fair. Jill sees every problem as one of skill or will, and her goal is to help managers balance compassion with the drive to deliver results. If you want to lead with empathy, but refuse to compromise on accountability, you're in the right place. Let's go. Welcome to Coach2Scale, how modern leaders build coaching cultures. I'm your host, Matt Benelli. Join me as we build a community of like-minded professionals who share the belief that effective coaching improves the performance of every team member. Our mission is to help leaders become better coaches. The Coach2Scale podcast is sponsored by Coachum, the world's first AI coaching execution platform that leverages evidence-based coaching to increase quota attainment. And with that, let's get started. Today's guest is a seasoned sales leader who's all about owning your actions. No room for victim mentality here. She also insists on solid coaching and making sure sales reps get every chance to succeed. She's earned her stripes and honed her leadership chops at industry leaders like Forrester Research and LinkedIn. Currently, she's a VP of sales for North America at GoTo. Jill Harris, welcome to Coach2Scale.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you so much for having me. I feel grateful to spend the time with you and to talk with you on this podcast during this hour.
Awesome. Excited for this conversation. I thought we had a great introductory call. I got a chance to learn about you and the type of things you care about. And maybe what I liked about it most is I felt like you're a spirit animal. So, we're aligned on a lot of things, which is cool. Jill, what's a myth about coaching salespeople and sales managers that you believe is misguided or maybe even complete BS, but you hear it time and time again?
Yes, that's a great question, Matt. The myth that I hear that I think has been out there for a really long time is that the coach has all the answers and really they can come to the table and quickly diagnose what the problems are and solve the problems for the coachee. And that's a total myth, right? Many sales reps really want the coach oftentimes to do the work, right? And say, tell me what needs to be fixed. And it's really not one-sided. That's not how it works. And mistakes can be made on both sides, right? Where sometimes you do get a coach actually that tries to give all the answers, right? And maybe something worked for them when they were a sales rep and they're very prescriptive of like, do this, try that. But that doesn't work for the coachee. And then the other mistake that I see is going with that myth. A sales rep comes in and is like, fix me, right? Without having any idea on what they need to improve, right? Or maybe a weakness that they have, right? And so you really need both sides to come to the table. And I see the coaches, the best coaches are those that are fantastic listeners. They ask so many good questions. They essentially peel back the onion, almost like a therapist would, where they're helping the coachee to come to their own conclusions, right? But they're coming at it together, right? And so the coach doesn't have all the answers. And that's definitely a myth that I see time and time again.
So, Jill, is it fair to say it's a two-part problem with the myth, right? One is that the manager, the coach, he or she puts a lot of pressure on themselves to have all the answers because they think they need to have all the answers. And because the rep wants them to do the work sometimes, it puts that extra responsibility on the manager. But the reality is, in order to be a good coach, you don't need to have all the answers. Maybe you need to have all the questions, right? Like you said, like a therapist. On the flip side, even if you have the answers, it's not about giving them up, right? And isn't that a big part of what you're saying, or am I misunderstanding?
Yeah, that's exactly right. You really need to help the person you're coaching come to their own conclusions because then if they believe, right, that's, that they're more bought in, right, to solving if they come up with it on their own. So that's where you can see huge strides and improvement, right, in that relationship. If even if the coach again knows exactly what the problem is and is like, you are, really bad at this, and this is what you need to do. Oftentimes the person being coached is going to put up a wall, right, and say, "Well, I don't believe you," right? Like, just feels rejected with that, and really, you need to again help them come to it on their own. So then they're much more accountable and bought in and believe in it because they've come up with that through guiding with the coach and asking the right questions.
Yeah, I had a guest recently on the show, and he talked about a lesson learned where he was coaching one of his senior reps and essentially was telling her, "Hey, you need to do this, this, and this." And she said, "Hey, time out. You're not listening to me. You're not listening. Just shut up." Like they had a good relationship. She's like, "Just shut up and listen." And he said he was new at the time into the leadership position. And she was this very seasoned rep. And he's like, it was a little bit of a punch in the face, but he says he every 6 months or so, he reaches out and thanks her for that wake up call in the sense that you don't have to have all the answers. Why do managers feel like they have to have all the answers though?
Maybe it's because of this myth persisting, but they do want to add value, right? Most managers, right? They feel inherently that they need to constantly add value and help their team improve and help their sales reps improve. So I do think there's a ton of pressure, and I think the pressure would be taken off, right? If we could all say, you don't have all the answers. I think the best leaders, I always say this whenever I've implemented a change, I'm like, this might not be the right one, but we can't keep doing the same thing, and I don't always have all the answers, right? And so even in decisions that I make constantly. So I think if we help to dispel that myth, right? And managers understood, right? Like it's not your job to fix. You should guide, listen, support, and yes, you're there to be a coach, but first and foremost, you need to build trust. I think that's so critical in a coaching relationship. But that, yeah, you won't have all the answers.
Yeah, no, it's a great point, and I think I've heard it said many times. You build a hell of a lot more trust by listening than by talking. Yeah, my wife tells me that all the time, Jill. I'm trying. Uh, I'm getting there.
Getting there.
Work in progress. So, Jill, we talked about coaching, and I know that you're a big believer in coaching and in helping people accomplish more than they thought was possible. Is there a framework you use with your managers to help them better coach, lead, and develop their people?
Yes. In the last 3 years, I developed a framework called the sales coaching plan. It sounds quite simple, but I'll walk you through the framework and how we implement it and when we implement it.
Awesome.
So the reason I did implement it is throughout my career, I would see sales reps be put on the dreaded performance improvement plan. And, the manager would dread this too. And oftentimes, the sales rep would be put on one and wouldn't really know. It would be a surprise, right? Surprised that they were going on one, right? And then also when the improvement plan was written up, it was very focused on KPI metrics of kind of exactly what we were saying. Do more of this and that, right? Do more calls, have more meetings, create more pipeline. And I firmly believe that all sales reps want to win, right? They would love to be 100% every single quarter, right? Every single month. So oftentimes the sales reps don't know what's not working, right? Maybe their metrics are through the roof and they've got, they've tripled their meetings and pipeline, but it's just not closing. So I developed this framework called the sales coaching plan that way before, the last resort of the improvement plan is to put a rep on a sales coaching plan. And it's much more comprehensive because the managers do coach, right, weekly. They do, on the spot coaching, but this is much more comprehensive. And I broke it down into 3 core areas. One is sales skills. So this covers sales tactics, everything from, are they running a solid discovery call, 3 levels of why? Are they able to uncover enough pain and deliver and tie that to business value? Back to the product, is it negotiation? Maybe it's tactics in the sales methodology, whether it's, MedPick or Forrest or Sandler. So it's a full section on what are the skills that really are preventing this rep from being successful. So that's one section. The next section is product knowledge, and that is not to be confused with trying to be a technical expert. So obviously in SaaS, we have our pre-sales engineers who are the technical experts. So the meaning behind this category is really helping the reps and ensuring they're strong enough in the product knowledge to be dangerous enough to, again, speak to it and tie it to business value. So in my, where I'm at GoTo, we sell to IT professionals that are highly technical and they speak in very technical speak. And we've noticed a lot of the reps would really struggle in understanding components of the product and tying that to the business value. So it's really just making sure they understand it at a high level to be dangerous enough to run a good discovery and to really uncover the pain, but they have to be technical enough to do that. And then the third one, the third section of the sales coaching plan is probably the easiest and most clear cut. This is operational metrics. So this does come down to, are they, do they have the right batting average, right? Do they have the right activity, enough meetings, enough talk time? Are they using social channels? But we all know in sales, you need to be at the right place at the right time and at the numbers game. So we do a lot in the numbers and then also focus on time management as well in that section. And so we roll this out when we see a rep struggling, and it's very much built with the manager and the rep. So the rep coming to the table to say, okay, here's where I think I'm struggling and where I need help in these 3 areas. And then the manager, and they kind of work on it together. And then essentially there's homework assignments for each category to say, okay, if you're struggling in this sales skill, we're going to partner you up with another rep that does this well. We're going to have you practice that technique on a call and send it to us. Maybe score some of your own calls, align you to enablement, for example, if you're struggling with something, or even a solutions engineer if it's more of a technical obstacle.
And well, it's actually I have a tactical question on product knowledge. So there's a saying. I grew up in this business in the Sandler world. So the Sandler methodology is something that I really took to heart and studied and tried to perfect. And one of the sayings there is that product knowledge is for the salesperson's benefit, not the prospect's benefit. Meaning, the danger is you learn all about the product and then you want to show what you know. And now you're trying to go toe to toe with, I don't know, a CIO, and you're 25 years old and you have a fraction of the experience. But so it's not about what you know. What I hear you saying, Jill, is it's about knowing enough about the product to run a discovery, which means to ask better questions. So the more you know about the product, the more you know about the business value it can provide, and then you learn about the customer, you can then ask, questions a layer or two down. Would that be fair?
That is 100% right. Is I see all too often, actually, our most, I would say, technical sales reps that know the product in and out, they fall in that trap very easily. Where as like a safety zone, they'll just start throwing up on features of function, and that's exactly right. It's for their own benefit to ask the third and fourth question, and because oftentimes when you're talking to like a really technical buyer, you can't even process sometimes what they're saying because it's so technical, and then tying it right back to the product. So yes, it's exactly that. It's ensuring they're asking the right questions to then tie it to the business value that professional can see.
Yeah. And Jill, what's something that you've learned, and gleaned from doing this for a couple of years with with the sales coaching plan? Like, what is there an aha moment with regard to rolling that out?
One of the ahas was originally when we rolled it out. It was not, it was almost perceived like, oh, is this performance? Like, what does this mean? Am I being put again? Is this like a precursor, right, to the improvement plan? And we worked with the reps to really understand, no, it's really not. You get way more resources to work with you. We align someone in enablement, we align a solutions engineer to them, and then essentially their manager is spending way more time with them than they are others on the team. And so that was a surprise. And then we quickly shifted the mindset. Now it's very well received. Of like, okay, this is great. There's such a benefit in this. Um, and it's now received again as a very positive thing. So I think it was an aha moment for me when again it was immediately like, oh, this is a bad thing when I'm getting one of these. Again, it's a mindset shift, and in working and rolling it out with the teams, it's now well received. But yeah, I think originally it was, oh, this is too much.
And a guest recently on the show, Mark Cosaglo. Mark was employee number one and CRO at Outreach, and then he's a co-host of a really popular podcast, 30 Minutes Till President's Club. And his take on this was, he's like, "Hey, people know what to do. Like the reps know what to do. They know what they're doing wrong, or they know what they're not doing enough of. They know where they need to get better and double down. And it's just about getting them to admit it to themselves and create with the manager the plan, the get well plan, right? The sales coaching plan. Would you agree, generally speaking, with the fact that when someone's struggling, they can diagnose, they know what they're not doing well. They know for the most part what needs to be done in order to get back on the right track. Do you agree with that?
I would say 90% of the time, yes. And exactly to your point, they need to be forced though to verbalize or admit that. And a lot of times I think they don't take the time to do that. And it's really stopping and sitting them down to say, what do you really think it is? And because yeah, we see this all the time where a sales rep can also, they know what it is and they've been coached, hey, your sales cycles are extending. Like, a common best practice is, for a future commitment, just set up the next call before you hang up, right? Like just make that a habit. And you can see, right, they regress, right? And you're just constantly trying to hold them, accountable. So yes, I would say it's 90%. You do get the 10% that, they're just not sure, right? And that's more, I would say, sales reps earlier in their career,
Okay.
right? That the really newbies are really just stuck and they're unsure.
That's a great point to bring up because I talked to someone that I informally coach who's a friend of mine's son who's an SDR, and I was asking him like, okay, why are you struggling? He said, I'm at the top of the activity board. I'm doing everything they ask me to do. My numbers are there. My metrics are there. And I said, well, what do you think the problem is? He's like, I don't know. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I gave him the old, well, if you did know, what would you say? And he's like, no, no, I really, I don't know. My manager keeps saying, can I help you? And he's like, I don't know what help to ask for. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And I'm like, okay, you're 23 years old. You just got out of school. Like, why would you know? Like, it's hard to go back 30 years for the time machine for me to 23 and figure that out. But you let's talk about the 90%. So the 90% that do know what the problem is. A lot of times it takes a while to get there. And I think you just said that. And one of the things that's happening before you get down to brass tacks and figure out like, how to work through the problem together, manager and rep, is there's a lot of finger pointing and the fingers never go back. No one ever says I'm the problem. It's, it's the corporate salute, right? It's no, it's marketing's fault. I didn't get enough leads. It's the economy's fault. The economy sucks. We're going into a recession. Haven't you seen all the layoffs? Like whatever it is, it's always somebody else's fault. And I think you and I talked about this a little bit. I call those excuses. And one of the biggest plagues to a sales organization is an excuse culture. And can you talk about the dangers of this and how you work to ensure that victim mentality doesn't erode your team's culture and performance?
Yes, no, absolutely. In my career, yeah, here or at GoTo and just in the last 15 years, yes, you see it quite a bit, and you do need to nip it in the bud. But it's dangerous for a few reasons. First and foremost, it's like a contagious disease, so it spreads. So if you get one toxic person speaking at a team meeting or in a private Slack channel, it can spread pretty quickly. And just like, kicking the dog, you say someone comes home and they're in a bad mood, especially the entire family. It's the same thing if they're in a good mood, right? So that's really dangerous because everyone, can feel that and it can spread to others on the team. The other danger is that rep really doesn't see it as them. So there's no accountability or responsibility for making any action or taking any action to change or improve. And so they're unable to see it as a problem that they have. They're not willing to get uncomfortable to make any changes. So then it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy and it gets worse and worse. So then their performance really declines. So we talk about this a ton in our culture of, you have a growth mindset, right? Actually, it kind of ties well into the fixed versus growth mindset. When you have a fixed mindset, you think you only have certain capabilities and you can't get better, right? Like you were born and you're not good at math, so you're never going to get good at math, right? And so we talk about this a lot. It's actually not true. Anyone can be good at math. You just have to focus on it, practice it. So essentially say, we don't tolerate, kind of negativity, I would say, outbursts within, the teams, not to be confused with, you know, you can speak your mind. And if you're frustrated and you are upset with something that's going on at the company, or, you think something's not working, right? There's challenges everywhere constantly. You should bring that up to your manager and you should discuss it, but you should come with a solution too, right?
Mm,
Like you can't
yeah.
just say, this is broken and none of it is my fault. It's about controlling what you can control. And so, the managers under me are all really, really good at this, where, we review, constantly kind of the pulse of the employees. So we do a employee pulse survey where they can anonymously fill out the survey of where, as a company and even in sales, we've done well, where we have fallen down, meaning where they think we haven't done well, where we need to improve. So at my level, I then report that back to them to say, you know, here's where we're improving. Here's where you said you're really unhappy. And here's where, again, areas that I need to work on for all of us to get better. And so that's like, it just kind of tying it back, an example of it's okay to be frustrated, right? We're always going to have challenges. Things are not going to go our way, but you don't deal with them in a way of just making excuses. You come up with a solution.
Yeah. Now, I love the idea, and again, we've heard it before. So sometimes it's just basic. Hey, you can vent, you can speak your mind, but if you identify a problem, come up with a couple of solutions, and let's talk through it as a team. So pivoting a little bit, Jill, what's a painful lesson that you've learned along the way, a battle scar, if you will, that you got from this crazy business that shaped how you approach things today?
Yeah, there's a few a few painful lessons. So one, I would say, is that in SaaS, change is constant. It's always changing. And, I've experienced, my teams have experienced even change fatigue, right? Where we're constantly doing reorgs or new initiatives come down and we have to pivot. And so, earlier in my career, a painful battle scar is, kind of standing in front of the entire org being like, we're not going to change at all. Like it's caught, like, and, no more changes coming your way. Like, I promise you, this is the last one. And yeah, that didn't work out too well. I had to really essentially reshape. One say, change is constant, right? And we have to control what we can control, and that is in personal life, as well as in work. And it's really all about your mindset, right? In sales, right? And changes. The reason we hate it so much is it's super uncomfortable, right? And we're like, a lot of it is just the trepidation of what might happen. That's a message early on, that I, learned was really bad. And now it's, I'm constantly working with the teams of, we control what we can, but we know change is constant, and we thrive through change, right? And it's uncomfortable, but it's uncomfortable because we're growing. So, that was a painful lesson, early on. I would say another one is just, and I think that everyone experiences this, is just failure, right? Whether it's getting passed up for a promotion, or really not doing well in a presentation. And so, early on, I was my own worst critic, I would say. And I would I'd ruminate and, really speak to, horribly to myself of like, you're really not good. But now I've changed that mindset around, now that I've, failed enough times to really look at it as a good thing. And going back to, you know, because I put myself in that situation, which was uncomfortable, it was a growth situation, right? And that means I'm putting myself out there, I'm putting myself in the arena. I'm a big fan of Brene Brown, and she always says, it's all about, again, putting yourself in the arena. It's like Teddy Roosevelt, right? The credit belongs to the man who's in the arena. And so whenever I hear myself with the negative talk, I'm like, hey, this is a good thing. I'm growing. I put myself in an uncomfortable situation, and that's a good thing. Growth is hard. So
Yeah.
another lesson I learned is just having the right mindset.
Yeah. Yeah, that the Carol Dweck, the growth versus the fixed mindset, certainly something I wish I knew many, many years ago. So powerful, powerful stuff, understanding how to unlock that and kind of move people more from that fixed mindset into the growth mindset in as many areas as possible. Um, Jill, AI, huge topic these days. What are you seeing out there? How are the most successful folks leveraging AI? Any thoughts there?
Yeah, I feel like it's AI is everywhere. It's all that we talk about in a really good way. And so yes, the most successful sales management pros are leveraging it in their tech stacks to make their sales reps more productive. And so everything from, chat GPT to, and again, if you're lucky enough, right, as a sales professional, you have some of these great technologies out there that have incorporated AI that can help with, content creation of proposals, even scoring leads. So it's definitely making sure that you've brought AI to your sales organization to make your sales reps more productive when prospecting. So I think that's key. The other thing that I think about with AI is bringing the AI trends within your business to your product team. So if your product isn't incorporating AI, then you're definitely falling behind. And so we're always working with the product team to think about, how to leverage AI in the tools that we sell. But for me, it's, I think AI is also really scary for a lot of people. It's going to replace all these jobs. I don't believe, I think some, in some industries, but I think we're far away from that. I feel, and it certainly has in some industries, but for sales, it's making sales way more productive in their jobs.
It's I got an interesting, a funny phone call from my 92-year-old stepfather today, and in his own crazy way, the way he talks, but he's like, you know what? Those, he's like, I'm a little worried about those longshoremen. I heard a word I've been listening for, and I finally heard it today, automation. He's like, those, I don't think those people realize how close they are to being automated away. And maybe they should. And I was surprised to hear that he even grasps like automation and AI at 92. But like, that tells me that it's getting to everybody. Everybody's understanding this transformation that we're going through, regardless of whether it applies to the longshoreman strike. I'm not making a comment on that. I'm just saying it's a 92-year-old person who's basically talking about AI and automation, which is kind of crazy in and of itself.
It's pervasive.
Pervasive, exactly. So, Jill, you're at GoTo now. Um, for people who don't know, because I know there's been a lot of changes there, but what does GoTo do? And what attracted you there, or what keeps you there? What are you most excited about in working with the team at GoTo?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We might be the one of the largest billion-dollar SaaS companies you haven't heard of. So GoTo formerly logged me in. And so our tagline is work from anywhere. So we focus on enabling remote work through basically secure, easy to use cloud-based tools. And we focus on IT and business communications. So easy to use across any device. And so it's really business communications. And then I oversee our IT side of the business. And so our flagship products are logging and rescue. We're sold to IT professionals. So it's enterprise remote support. And then GoTo Resolve is our newest, fastest growing all in one unified endpoint management platform. And so it's built for SMBs, but securely manages all of the devices across mobile and the entire fleet of infrastructure for companies.
Yeah.
So I've been with the company a little over 9 years, which is crazy. And yeah, so the reason I joined and the reason I love the company and have stayed here so long is the culture. The culture is phenomenal. The people are great. And what's really nice is the whole work from anywhere, right? Is our tagline. Well, that's also what we take to heart with our employee base in terms of the flexibility to work from anywhere. So we're 100% fully remote. So the culture is fantastic, extremely innovative. So we're constantly innovating. Again, the change is constant. And then the big thing for why I came is was just the growth and the career trajectory, I would say. And I have a perfect example of that. I've been at the company 9 years. I started as a inside sales manager, ran enterprise, moved my way up to director, then an AVP, and now I'm a VP. And so that was really what I was looking for. So I'm always, I continue to grow there, and it's a great place to grow your career.
Awesome. And work from anywhere. It seems to be relevant these days. Yeah.
It does, although there is a little news kind of popping back up about how some of the companies, right, are pulling people back, right? We are not, we are not. But yeah, it'll be interesting, 5 years, 10 years from now, to see where the workforce is. If it's hybrid, if it's gone the other way back to in office, it'll be fascinating to see where we land.
For sure, for sure, and I hear all of that, and I've heard it argued and or debated, really from different perspectives, and I can see the benefits. I certainly see the benefit these days of being able to work from anywhere, but having two young children that are just getting started in the workforce, the idea of working from anywhere doesn't sound as good. Like people need, so like there's a mix and match. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. So Jill, the podcast is Coach2Scale. We talk about coaching. We bring guests on like yourself who care about coaching and developing people. Usually people who embrace that have had that positive behavior modeled for them somewhere along the way. Who's someone who's coaching in your life has had a big impact on your career and who you are?
So he was my boss about 5 years ago. And I'll actually say his name. It's Steve Antuna. So maybe I'll send him this after we're done. But he had a huge impact on me. He was a fantastic boss that always gave me, on the spot coaching, but really pushed me outside my comfort zone to take on stretch projects, and that really helped me. Right, early in my career, he would do my reviews, and like, where do you want to go? What's next for you? What do you want to do next, Jill? Like, let's talk about how you're going to get there, and this is what this would look like, right? Like, you're not in front of enough of the executive team. We need to have you speaking more at the sales leadership conferences. So go talk to enablement and go, sign up for a speaking spot, right? And so he would really push me, and he again was a good coach in that he would give me ideas, but would help me come to them on my own. So it would be like, hey, try this. Like, what do you think of this? But what do you think? Right. So really good at asking the right questions. And when he was prescriptive, it was like, here's something to think about. What do you think? So definitely it was very much a two-way street. Again, he just was absolutely instrumental and really cared, right? And pushed me to really be the best I could be.
Nice. Steve Ventuna? Is that have you told him this? Curious.
I've heard it. That's what I'm going to send to this
There you
podcast.
go. Hey, you know what? When you do it for a long time, like I'm sure Steve's been doing this for a little while, like you and I have, it you don't know. Like it's nice to hear every once in a while. I'm sure people have come to you and said, "Hey, Jill, I used to work for you, or I work for you. Like you've had an impact on me." Like that's why we do this, right? It's a big part of why we do it for sure. Another question I ask all the guests is, "Who's your favorite coach?" When I say favorite coach, I'm thinking about something that whose name most people would kind of know. It doesn't need to be sports related, but someone who you look up to that's in the sphere in the universe of the
I would say Brene Brown. When I think of coach, I'm thinking like football coach.
sure.
But yeah, I would say Brene Brown. Like, I love Darren Greatly and the whole concept around vulnerability and letting down your armor, but using that to build authenticity, which I think is so important. But I'm a huge fan of Brene Brown. I think she's done amazing work.
Yeah, and that authenticity is huge, right? Like, and getting people to buy in and all the different things that happen when people realize that you're a real person and you're not going through this in a robotic fashion. So super powerful. Uh, Jill, last question. If you had to give a TED talk tomorrow on any topic related to leading and coaching and developing people, what would that topic be? So, a topic or a micro topic, you know, 10, 15 minutes or so. You had to give a talk. What would it be?
Great question. I think I would speak on balancing accountability with compassion, a carrot and a stick. And so the best coaches, they walk a fine line, right, between helping people reach their fullest potential, when they're struggling, holding them accountable, but with a high emotional IQ and intelligence, right, with compassion and care. And really just, again, it's a little, maybe less a carrot, but more of being, maybe it's radical candor with the carrot, right? And doing it in a compassionate way, and maybe techniques for just balancing tough conversations with empathy. I find that that's always the hardest part. It doesn't get easier to have those tough conversations. But when you can do them with, compassion and empathy, it gets easier, and they're received well.
Yeah, I saw a quote this morning, and it had something to do with tough conversations get tougher the longer you take to have them. And
Mm.
but on the flip side, the reason why people kick the can down the road and don't have the conversation is they're not really sure how to have it with empathy and all that. So it's a little bit of a chicken and the egg thing. Well, I got to tell you, that's a really solid place to leave it, Jill. We covered a lot of ground today. We talked about, like at the end there, balancing accountability with compassion. We talked about the sales coaching framework. We talked about, the importance of sales skills and product knowledge and operational metrics, bringing problems, venting, but also coming with a solution. Thank you so much for not only coming in and appearing on the episode, but bringing so much energy and ideas. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. This has been a pleasure, and I really enjoyed our conversation. It's been fantastic.
Awesome. And for everybody out there watching and listening, thanks for doing that. If you like what you're hearing, let us know you liked it. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Also, engage. Let us know what you'd like to see more of. Let us know certain guests that you'd like to hear. Let us know different ideas that you're hearing and things that you're being challenged by. We want to bring interesting guests to you who have points of views and perspectives like Jill, who can help bring actionable ideas to you to help make what you do just that little bit easier. So thanks for engaging out there. And until next time. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Coach2Scale, How Modern Leaders Build Coaching Cultures. For show notes and other episodes, visit us at coachem.io. That's COACHEM.io. And follow us on Twitter at CoachemNow. See you all next week. Thanks for joining. And remember, coach them if you want to keep them.